I was born in Weehawken, New Jersey, and raised in Hoboken. I was only born in Weehawken because that's where the hospital was, which is no longer there. It's long gone. It's been condos for probably 30 years. Mom and dad, mom was actually born in Toronto. Had something to do with her father. I don't understand what the whole thing was about it, but she was a dual citizen. Her mom was born in the States. Her father was born in the United States. They were raised in Italy, but born in the United States. I don't know how that worked out, but my mom and dad were both born in this country. Growing up, when I was born, they owned two bakeries, one in Hoboken and one in West New York. I didn't have my dad for long. He passed away when I was 6.5 years old. So mom raised four boys after that. Other than so certain times that we spent together, times around the bakery that I vaguely remember, because like I said, you're going back to a real small child. At 59, memories of 3, 4, and 5 years old, they're few and far between. So there are instances you could remember about, like a flash of the past in a certain situation in the bakery or around the house. But other than that, not much at all. There's a family history of high blood pressure and such, but from what my mother told me growing up, his mom killed him. I know that sounds funny, so I'll expand on it a little bit. Like I said, mom and dad owned two bakeries in Hoboken. The actual owner of the property was his mother, my grandmother. She was of German Hungarian descent and did not like Italians. They were lowlife. They were the scum of the earth to her and her people. And she had implored my father to leave my mother and take the oldest son, he was a junior. My father's name was Frank, and my oldest brother's name is Frank. He was Frank Jr. And my grandfather's name on that side was also Frank. So he wasn't a third because of the middle name, but there were three Franks. And my grandmother asked, after my grandfather on that side passed, my grandmother asked that my father leave the family behind and take the oldest son and leave the mother. When my father obviously refused to leave his family behind, she foreclosed on all the property and literally threw us out into the street. And after that, we moved into the projects, and my father had to, go to work for another baker, and it pretty much broke him as a man.
Wow, that's some story.
So, and that's my mother said that always killed him. He couldn't get over that. He couldn't take care of his family the way he wanted to, and be his own man after that. The fact that she lost a husband with 4 children, I was 6. The oldest was 17. So she had some teenagers, and she had to go to work. She was a waitress. She raised 4 boys on a waitress's pay, and we all turned out good. Nobody wound up in jail. We all have pretty decent lives, and it was just amazing. She was always strong, always there for us. Always did everything that anything you wanted, you had. Somehow.
She worked every day?
And she worked every day, almost 7 days a week she worked as a waitress. She didn't take a day off. Rarely went anywhere, no vacations, nothing like that. But an amazing woman right to the end, amazing woman. She was kind, yet opinionated. They said she was a full Italian, but she didn't speak much Italian in the house. If she was talking to another relative who was Italian, they exchanged a few words here and there in Italian for the most part. But we always spoke, American English in the house. There was always food on holidays. There was always too much food. She was a good baker, obviously. She baked. She taught me how to cook some dishes. She taught me a few of the secrets in the kitchen. And that was always good. And like I said, we never wanted for anything. I was the baby, so I always got there's a lot under the tree for me at Christmas time. I always got a lot of birthday presents and always was well taken care of. We got sent to Catholic schools. I mean, well, nowadays Catholic schools barely exist because the people just aren't, whether for the reasons of the priests or whatever, but, back then we had nuns. Now nuns don't teach in the schools no more. They have to pay teachers, so it gets more expensive. But, as far as mom, she had some family in Hoboken that helped her raise us, that took care of us while she was at work. But every day, we'd go home at night and we'd be a family, and we lived in the projects in Hoboken, which wasn't the nicest place to grow up, but we lived in a clean apartment. My mother she made Felix Unger look like Oscar. She was a fanatic. We lived in a type of house with the covered furniture, and she used to pledge the floors. She was a real fanatic about cleanliness and raised us, pretty much the same. Everything shined. The wood shined. The wooden furniture shined, and the floors were polished. She literally used the tile floors, got pledged, so they shined. You had to worry about standing, because you'd fall down a lot. Or you learn how to slide across the floor because it was that slippery all the time growing up. I lost Mom in 2004. She was ill for a short time, and it came on sudden. And I guess she went out on her own terms. She had slowed down a little bit, obviously, and she was in her 80s. She had slowed down a little bit. She had slowed down a little bit, and when she came to visit us, it took a little bit longer. She started to forget the roads a little bit, but she still drove, and she still smoked. She smoked right to the end, smoked her cigarettes right to the end. Wasn't a drinker. We used to have to give her a scotch if she drove with somebody, because she wasn't a good passenger in a car. Good driver in a car, not a good passenger. It was not a good passenger. She was a clory passenger. She'd claw you if she sat next to you. So we used to give her a scotch to make her relax on a drive. But growing up driving with her, she was a lead foot. She was a lead foot. She'd have no problem going down the shore doing 90. She'd be on that gas pedal and wouldn't let up. But as she got older, they slowed down, and then you slow down, the driving slows down too. And that's what I learned from her, that she didn't have it. So going forward, we didn't. I grew up when I was very young. We had a house. We actually had a couple of houses. We had a house down the shore too, that the grandmother owned the note on as well. So I learned, growing up in an apartment. I always wanted to live in a house because we didn't have that, but I learned to save when you can. Save for that and save for that. My mother was always saving money. She she never wanted for nothing. She didn't need nothing, but she made sure that everybody else had everything they wanted. And money was nothing to buy things for other people, buy things for her children, her grandchildren. She always bought them everything all the time. But that's what she saved for. She saved for family. She saved to spend it on family. That was Mom's thing. She didn't save for herself. She wanted nothing for herself. And she saved for family, but impressed upon us that you should save, is the point. You should have the money there to use it if you need it. And that's what we tried to do. Near the end, my mother tried to forgive her, and my grandmother begged for forgiveness. But at that time it was pretty much sealed. My mother went down and seen her occasionally, but at that time the fate was sealed. She had done something so wrong, it was almost unforgivable, in her eyes. But my mother, being the bigger person, she tried a little, to make it work for the kids. But even in the end, my grandmother went to her grave the same way that she broke my father. She left a will. She had a house and some stock, and left a will that me and my three of the brothers got a small share of stock. The oldest brother, Frank, got the same shares of stock and half of her house. So right into her grave, she stuck it to us. We got 7 shares of Citgo oil stock. City Service Oil, it was called at the time. It was Citgo gasoline. And I mean, I held it for a few years and sold it for a couple $100. It was pretty much valueless at the time. Who knew gasoline was going to go up to $4 a gallon, right? In 14, I lost my brother, one of my brothers, in 2014.
What was his relation? How old was he? Did you say
He was
older?
7 years older than me. He was in his mid-60s when he passed. He had health issues for like 5 years previous. He was not a healthy man. We didn't expect it. He took a fall before Christmas Eve. He took a fall, fell down, hit his head, and it turned out that was actually integral to his death. He was bleeding in his brain, but they didn't find it until a few days later. So it's not good to lose anybody. It's especially not good to lose anybody on the holidays. I think right now it's already ingrained in my kids. My son is already a hard worker. I'm proud of the work he does. He's got good work ethic. I wish he was a more earlier riser, but his work ethic is there. He takes pride in his work. What he does well, and I believe I taught that to them. My daughter was the same way. I believe, and I taught my kids that any job worth doing is a job worth doing well. You take pride in what you do, and that's a reflection of you. And people see that. Even when you don't think people see it, somebody will say that, look at that. Somebody put this together, that's nice. But somebody else will look at it and say, wow, look at the way that was put together. This person really cared about their work. And that's what really is the important thing. And I think, leaving something, it's pride in work. Do unto others thing that I had said earlier, and taking care of those around you that deserve taken care of, and caring for people. I have neighbors. I like to take care of my neighbors. They're good people, and I don't do it for any reason. I do it because that's the way to be in life. Take care of people who you should be taking care of. Believe it or not, it was a cocktail party. I went to school after high school. I went to school to learn how to repair heavy equipment, which was in that field for 18 years. And the last 5 years or so, I hated it. Getting up in the winter and in the summer in the heat and going out and just getting filthy dirty, working outside day after day in the winter in the snow and the ice. Fingers turning blue, and in the summertime sweating, full of grease and stuff. I just hated it, and it started to show. I took off of work. I started to drink, and things weren't good at home, and I just wasn't a happy person. And my wife was working as a waitress at the time, and we got invited to a Christmas cocktail party at a coworker's house up in Englewood Cliffs. And sitting in the kitchen, I met the people at the party, and I'm sitting in the kitchen talking to this one gentleman over a beer, and turns out he's a union official in the union I now belong to. And he said, wow, you know all of that stuff. He said, you should actually come to work for our union. It's really turning into a really mechanized type of industry, and we could use somebody with your abilities. And long story short, I did just that. I put a resume together and went over and worked, and little by little, people got to see, what I could do, and I got more and more requested on jobs, mostly because of machinery. Believe it or not, in the beginning, I worked a lot of outdoor stuff, concerts and outdoor venues, and there's always machinery on that. And somebody found out that, hey, Joe can run these machines, and now Joe is on every site running machines. Then pretty soon, Joe's getting called at my union hall from the other union hall to go run machines on film shoots and stuff like that, and then little by little that it became that Joe knows a lot about rigging and machinery, and that's how I advanced in the business, and my son as well too, just by little, same way. For all the 18 years, I worked hard. I was never on unemployment. Always worked to feed my family and stuff. but could never save up enough money to buy a house or anything, or even think about it. Just living day to day. And the kids had want of nothing. Don't get me wrong. They had all the toys and all the clothing, and they ate. We ate. We go out. We could afford to go out to dinner and stuff. But buying a house was out of the question until I got into the stage business, and all of a sudden the salary doubled. In a year, the salary, what I made in 1 year, I was making in half a year, and then pretty soon in triple that. And then I could afford a house. And after that, of course, it changes your life. You're in a house, and now you got a bigger headache. You own a home. It scares you. I mean, I was in my late 30s, and you have a family. Sure, it's a scary thing. You're jumping into the unknown. You're jumping into a literally a black hole. But you get sent out on a couple of jobs. You see how much you're getting paid on a single job and stuff like that, and know the potential's there. So I just knew myself that I could make it, because I saw the potential there for earnings. And I knew that once people got to know me, that my skills and my ethic of work would advance me within this business, and it has. There also is like I'm on Broadway now, and I don't look for extra work, but there is potential. I can make phone calls and work still on concert venues if I like and stuff. Then I just hustled. I mean, there were days where I'd leave and I wouldn't come home for a couple of days, because I was going from one job in a park to a ballroom in a hotel, and then to a TV studio, NBC or CBS, and then back out to the park, and then back to a ballroom, and not come home for days. Bring a change of clothes and socks, and just stay in the city, going from job to job. You just hustled and made money as much as you could. Yeah, there was downtime. There was going to be days where you're not going to work. I can't tell you how many days that I went to the Union Hall to shape the Union Hall, and you sat at the Union Hall for 8 hours, and you don't do nothing. You play cards at the Union Hall, and then you go home with your tail between your legs. I didn't get no work today. That happens. I met her at.
Sorry, start again.
I met her. I think she was 8 or 9 years old. I think. Literally, our first date, she was 9 years old. I was 12. We went to the drive-in together. Now, we weren't driving, obviously. My brother was dating her sister. My older brother was dating her older sister. And they went to the Route 3 drive-in, which is no longer there either. And he had a 68 Cadillac Coupe de Ville convertible. And they put us in the front seat, gave us candy, popcorn, soda, and said, don't bother turning around too much. So that was actually our first date. And then they got married a few years later. We were in the wedding party. But I knew her all that time. The families knew each other. They had kids after they were married a few years. They had a couple of kids, and they sort of set us up. They asked us to babysit, and they sort of set us up at their house. And that was sort of the first time, and we went out on actual dates. She was... First actual dates she was 16 years old, I was 19. And that was pretty much it. And then we just dated from then, and then dated for years, and then we got married. So we hit it off right from the beginning. I mean, it's also there was a physical attraction, and then you got the families too. You had her brother and her sister and my brother were married, so we shared familial things, and it was easy. We shared hobbies. Her father was a fisherman, taught her to fish at a young age, and we shared the hobby of fishing. We'd go out fishing together and stuff. I mean, not in the beginning, but later on, after we started dating, we liked doing camping and stuff like that. We had a lot of hobbies that we shared. We bowled and did different things together. So we hit it off. I mean, we hit it off in almost all facets, and it just was something that stuck, and we just kept dating, and then we actually started living together, and a few years living together. Well, a couple, not a lot. Maybe 2 years living together. Then we decided to get married.
How old were you?
Okay, I have to do the math. It's embarrassing. I was. That's embarrassing. I can't do the math fast. If I was 20, 25, I believe, when we got married. She was 22.
And then, so you had a good marriage, very good marriage.
Absolutely. Well, there's like any marriage. We were married for just shy of 30 years. So like anybody who's married that long could tell you that there's every day is in a holiday. You know, I'd be sitting here. I'd be foolish to even say to anybody who's married that long that you didn't have some arguments and some times when you're ready to walk out the door and stuff like that. That's going to happen with anybody in marriage, love or no love. That's you get. Sometimes you just get it up to here and you got to walk away. Karen placed that. It's hard to expound on, a soulmate, and replacing a soulmate. That's people go for lives without ever finding one. I found one.
Yeah. So I mean, I think you already answered. What did Jen mean to you?
Well, everything. I mean, you couldn't ask for a better mother to your children. She worked as well, so it was we both worked. We both worked hard, and yet she managed to have meals cooked, get the kids off to school. I went to work with clean clothes. The kids always had clean, pressed clothes. If I went out, my shirts were pressed. Everything we always looked good. The house was clean, and I don't know. They just don't make them like that anymore. Is what the truth is. You can't find a woman who can cook, clean, and wants to work too. They don't. They want to do one or the other now. It seems out there. Well, what it means is that just never take nothing for granted. That life is short. It's finite. Enjoy all the times you can, because it's too short. Life is too short. Don't put off that vacation to pay the bill. Let the bill sit. It'll still be there when you get back from vacation. Go on vacation. Make those memories. If any regrets, those are only some I have, that we worked too hard, didn't do enough of travel and take time with the kids, and we could have. We were always there for the kids. Don't get me wrong, and we were at all the games, all the events and stuff. But things we could have taken more vacation time and did a little bit more traveling that we didn't get to do. And I would say that somebody else don't put that off. Do that because you'll find that someday it's too late. I guess what everybody wants. You want happiness. You want and as a young man, you want a career. You think you know what you want. Obviously, that changed. I wouldn't have went into the mechanic field had I known about this other thing. About being a stagehand. But it actually, I guess in hindsight, it made me a better stagehand because I appreciate it more. But as a kid, growing up, you wanted things. You wanted what you didn't have as a kid. What you grew up without. Like we didn't have boats and stuff and cars and things. We had like one family car, and we didn't have no boats and those are things that you see other people, you see on television that you want. And now, well, I'd like to have a boat when I grow up and go water skiing on vacation and have a Corvette and stuff like that. And things that you see, you want. Mostly, I guess, creature comforts and stuff that you grow up and you want everything. A house in the country and stuff to that nature. Stuff that now is, I have a lot of it, but. And now you want, I guess, and now you want different things. I don't know. Now you want to be happy and be able to enjoy the things that you got more than want other things. No shortcuts in life. You have to earn the things you have. You have to work for what you have. Being given something teaches you nothing. And you can see that with things around you. People that are given things in life, they have no respect for the things they're given or for others, for that matter. But when you've earned your way in life, when you've worked hard, and nobody's giving you nothing, and it not only it gives you a sense of accomplishment. You really feel that you are where you are because you earned the right to be where you are. And your happiness is where it is because that's what you've made it. And nobody's giving you anything along the way. And it's all you. And when you look around you with your family, they're reflective of you too. In other words, how they behave, how they treat others, and that's all you too. So that's your accomplishment. You know, it's the whole package. You know, it's me, it's what I have. You know, what my family is. You know, looking at them, what they have. That's all me. That's all my accomplishment, and my wife's accomplishment is them.
I guess another part of your philosophy is to stay close to those you love. Do you believe in that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Back in, I'm going to say it was the mid 80s, I think it was. Back in the mid 80s, I was offered a job to work in Maui as a mechanic for a John Deere dealership. And I approached my wife at the time, and she didn't even think about it. She just said, no. I said, well, it's Hawaii, it's Maui. I said, honey, it's not a bad paying job. And I said, it's Hawaii. And then she said, but our family's here. Our whole family's here, right around us in Jersey, and we wouldn't get to see them. I said, you know, you're right. And I told the guy, no, I can't take that, you know, once in a lifetime job in Maui. I got to stay in Jersey because that's where my family is. This is where we are. This is where we'll be. I've already started. My granddaughter, who's pretty new to the world, she's 6 months old. I started at Christmas. I sent them a check, and I told them I want to set up an account that I could just direct deposit to monthly. Which, as it turns, you would think in this society, this internet society, it'd be easier than it is. But we can't have like one central account that I could add to from anywhere. I have to have my own account for her that I could add to. So my daughter is in the process of setting that up. And what I will do is I'll try and put so much in a week or a month. And that'll be, you know, something I can do for her. As far as my kids, I mean, they get whatever I have. You know, I have an annuity when I retire, and I have a pension. The kids get my annuity, which out of that has to pay off the house. Unless I die before then my life insurance will pay everything off. But the annuity is a sizable amount, and the kids get that, and they split that and can divvy it up to their children however they see fit. I think you should always try and save money. Going forward, for future generations, you should always try and save money. I've impressed upon that to my kids. So my children have accountants now, and they have financial advisors, and they're saving their money. And going forward, you should always, especially you do it when you're living home with the parents. When you're working, you try and save money. You know, save where you can. Be frugal. Enjoy. But you don't have to spend every dime. You don't have to be extravagant. You don't have to buy the best pair of shoes. You could buy a pair of shoes that look as good as the best pair of shoes, and then save the rest. And you save for that proverbial rainy day. That's something my mother taught me. You save for that proverbial rainy day, because whether it comes or it doesn't come, you have that, and that could be passed on. That rainy day money, it could be passed on. And it could be passed on further if they don't have that rainy day. Let's hope nobody has a rainy day, but should you have one, there's something to fall back on. Growing up in Hoboken was, way different than anybody who would look at Hoboken in the year 2018. Totally different town. Growing up in Hoboken was a lot of poor people. Mixed variety of races and nationalities, and everybody didn't get along. And it was okay. I can't tell you that there were days that you didn't go out and have a fight with a kid and beat each other up. It happened. it didn't go further than that because that's how growing up in Hoboken was. You know, you didn't agree with somebody, you had a fight with them, a fist fight, knock down, drag out, bloody noses, black eyes, fat lips, going home, and then the next day you go out and you're playing ball with that kid. You're shaking hands and you're playing ball with that kid because that was the day before. I mean, nowadays, even in life, it's different than that. Let's face it. Nowadays, it ain't a fist fight in the street. They're calling it's either somebody's pulling a gun, a knife, or they're calling their lawyer to sue you. But back to Hoboken, was like a family town. You couldn't walk down the street of Hoboken without somebody knowing you, knowing your mother and father, your brothers, your sisters, your aunts, your uncles. Everybody knew each other. It wasn't even like one block or two. So you couldn't walk down any street in the city without at least one person coming the other direction knowing who you were and who your family was, or maybe having broken bread at your house before too, because that's how Hoboken was. And every other block was a bar, tavern, the old pubs, old taverns, and it was a nice place. They used to have your mom didn't have to go far for shopping because the trucks used to come around. The guys were in the middle of the streets hawking meat, hawking fruits and stuff like that off their fruit truck. You used to have the push carts going by, Italian ice all summer long. Every corner, the push carts go around selling Italian ice, and the ice cream trucks, the old Mr. Softy and Good Humor back then, when there was a Good Humor truck, used to go down the streets. They used to have the ride trucks that used to come around. They had almost like you'd have in a carnival now with the rides. They had trucks used to go around and park on your corner, and you used to get a quarter from your mom and go on a ride at the corner, or something like that. We had a town pool. It never got filled growing up. I mean, all my years in Hoboken, I was in Hoboken over 20 years, and I never saw water in a town pool. If we had to swim. When high school, we could swim in a high school pool, but other than that, you jumped into the filthy, dirty Hudson River to cool off on 95-degree days, and you learned how to swim by jumping off of barges into the Hudson River. It was disgusting. I couldn't tell you the stuff that sticks to you. I don't even want to put that on camera, the stuff that you come out of the water with on you. But it cooled off, and this is the only way to cool off. Did we get into mischief? Yeah, we got into mischief when we were kids, too. But back in the day in Hoboken, you got caught doing something wrong, breaking into some place, breaking into a warehouse at night just to look around and do things illegally. Cops catch you. First, they'll give you a little whack and then take you home to your parents by the ear, and then you'll promptly get whacked again by your parents, and that'll be that. The cops will take you home. I remember even growing up, I was in my 20s. Coming home one night, walking home from Weehawken, and I was in a bar in Weehawken in my 20s, and walking home, I don't even remember. I was drunk and staggering down the street, and a car pulls up. He says, "You okay?" I said, "Yeah, I'm fine." He says, "You want to ride home?" I said, "All right." I got in the car. The guy drove me right home. I didn't even know who the guy was, and how he knew that. Turns out he was a fireman that lived in the building, that he recognized me, but that's how Hoboken was. Now, I mean, you're not going to get that in any city, anywhere anymore. It's a way of life is gone. A way of life, family and a whole neighborhood caring about one another and knowing one another, because people want to be to themselves now. They don't want to leave their house and get out there. Block parties, like we used to have block parties in Hoboken where, people would cook food and everybody hang out and barbecue literally in the street. They'd close off a street and there'd be a band or something like that. Or when I grew up in Hoboken, there were 8 or 9 Catholic schools, and between spring to the fall, all of those Catholic schools had fairs where they'd sell the sausage and peppers and the Zaples and have their raffles and bands and big name bands and stuff during the week. And this would go on all summer long, in that town. Now, it's few and far between in towns. The people just don't care about each other as much, I think, is the bottom line.
Yeah, it probably had to do something about everybody was in the same economic condition. People weren't much richer.
Well, probably so, but I think that exists even in Lyndhurst now. But the people don't care. I mean, I've been on this block for 18 years. I know your family. I know the people next to me, and other than that, I mean, there are people across the street that have been there, down the block for years. I don't know who they are. See, where I grew up in Hoboken, you knew everybody on the one block. You knew everybody. You knew their sisters. You wanted to date the one sister, and maybe your brother was already dating the other sister and stuff like that. But you knew everybody on the block. You knew all their families. You knew who their cousins were from around the corner. But like, it's not like that in any neighborhoods I see anywhere anymore.
Well, I mean, that jumping in the Hudson River, that's very interesting.
Why is that? I mean, it's
that's a fast-flowing river.
It is.
Like
It is.
tides
You
and
have to swim. You don't venture out towards the middle, away from the. Don't forget the docks used to stretch out 30 yards and stuff. You don't venture out further than the docks unless you really could swim because the current was very strong. I had friends that tried to swim across and actually did, but you'd jump in Weehawken, let's say, or on 12th Street in Hoboken, and you wouldn't get across till you're somewhere down near Battery Park by the time you got across because the current's taking you all the way down.
And just dodging all the boats coming down.
Well, there wasn't as much boat traffic then. Back in those days, there wasn't. There was the occasional barges and stuff like that, and some other ships. But Hoboken was. I don't think they really wanted to come up the Hudson River at that time. It was just a nasty water. I mean, now we know that that one company polluted almost the whole river. GE polluted almost the whole river and pretty much killed it. But we didn't know nothing then. We were just dumb kids that needed a place to cool off. It was bad. Well, you got to also back in the day, before they knew what we were doing to the environment, all the rivers, not only Hudson, but even all the rivers in northern Jersey in particular, because it's a very industrial section of the state. The Passaic River is one, the Hackensack River. All the companies built their factories on the river, and all dumped into the river, and it polluted all our polluted. We polluted our own environment, unfortunately, and the Hudson River was no lack of pollution there. Well, my best friend growing up, his name was Kenny McAllister. He's long passed. And actually, most of my friends that I grew up with have passed. Joey Carroll, he had to come from a big family. There was a few Carrolls. I'm sure some of them are alive. I actually met Kenny McAllister's brother as a realtor in Rutherford. I met him by chance in the park, walking the dog once. We had a small group of friends. It was a few of us. It was also Jimmy Grazioso. He's also gone. Like I said, most of my childhood friends have passed, and we all pretty much hung out together every day. The same group of guys, walked around and hung out together and playing ball together, and then as I got older and went to school, high school and stuff like that, I have one friend who was still my friend till today. His name is Bruce Shack, and he's actually Anthony's godfather. But we went to school together from beginning of high school, from 9th grade on, and we're best friends, still are. He's moved out of Jersey now. We talk regularly still. We got into our share of trouble together, ditched our share of school together, and had a lot of fun together. Double dated, know each other's wives and know each other's families, fairly well. We'd, got into some trouble together, went to jail together a few times. Didn't go to jail together, got away with some stuff a few times. We had some adventures. I wouldn't suggest, some of the things that we did to others, but we did have some adventures, some sober, some drunken. But, that does happen. It is some good memories, all good laughs. I don't know if you want me to expound on any of them. I mean, there were some of them illegal, but they were funny nonetheless. I mean, we went to take a bus. We were out drinking one night in the city, and we're coming back. I said, we should take a bus home. He says, that sounds like an idea. So we go up to the 3rd floor in the Port Authority. I open the side window, the driver's window on the bus, because I know how to operate buses. So I go to start the bus up, because I was going to literally take the bus home. I was going to let him in, drive the bus home. But I'm hanging in the window. I hit the button to start the bus so the door would open up, but the bus driver left the bus in gear. So the bus starts going forward with me hanging on the window. All I could hear is him yell, "Abort the mission!" And I jumped off the bus. We took off for a staircase to get out of the Port Authority. And all we could hear is a big thud when the bus hit a guardrail upstairs. But like I said, little things, some things stupid, some things illegal, things we didn't get caught. There were times we did get caught that I won't go into detail about. But still a friend till today. Do anything for him. He do anything for me. And, you know. Well, what I could say about the future people is this: the future generations, whether it be related to me or not, you can't go back. Number one, you go forward, and things are getting more technical in life. But in that for that reason, we have to get more basic in life. We have to stay with the basics and not hurt things. We've hurt the world a lot. My generation hurt the world a lot. With emissions and stuff like that, and the progression, the natural progression of things. But we could do better for the planet, do better for the animals. Me, myself, I'm a fisherman. I release fish. I don't take them home. I catch them. I take a picture. I release them. If you're going to eat something, then you can take it. I understand population control with animals, and that's people have to understand that this is a good thing. People are screaming today about the deer. They shouldn't shoot deer and shouldn't shoot bear. Listen, it's unfortunate, but population is growing, and that's a fact. And we're not going to change that unless we start curbing the ability to reproduce. So the space for this population to live, we're displacing some of God's creatures. We can either get along with them, or when they start to incur our territory, and it's a bad thing, they have to be taken down. But as far as going forward, it's never lose sight of your neighbor or the people around you, or a chance to do something good for somebody who needs something good done for them. Because that feeling that's going to give you is something you can't buy. It can never be replaced. It's something that can't be given to you. That's something that you've earned, is the ability to do something good for somebody. And that's something that can't be given or taken away from you, ever. And it can't be bought either. It's just do something nice for a person. Even if you do something once a week, you're going to just go out of your way to do something nice for a person. That's something that should be within everybody. And if everybody does that, like I said, does that little good for somebody, or makes a friend out of a stranger, or does something good for a neighbor, does something good for a coworker. It's anything. Anybody you could do something good. Just once a week, do something good for somebody, and that'll be something that you'll take with you for the rest of your life. Something that nobody else did. You did it. You did that something nice for somebody that brightened their day, even if it was for a few minutes, but it brightened somebody's life, and they may remember that, and then they may tell somebody else about that. So that's about it. Yeah, if you don't actually go out and do something for somebody, reach out to somebody and help them. It may not be something you relax doing, or it's something you do often, but then go out and do something nice. Just go out and knock on somebody's door. Reach out to them. Listen, I noticed your cans were out. Your garbage cans, you left them out a couple of days. I grabbed them and put them in your backyard. Is there any reason? You okay? Everything okay over here? Or you see them struggling to do something. You need a hand with that. Can I help you lift that? Stuff to that effect. I think the most important thing is do unto others. Karma is important. Take care of those around you. Those that are nice to you, be nice to them. And those that aren't nice to you, just you walk away from it as best you can in life.
That's interesting.
There are people that don't want to let you walk away from their evilness and stuff like that in life. Or try and draw you into their ugliness and stuff like that. And you try your best. Do your best. Do the way you were taught to be. Like you were raised to be good. And that's it.